steps up. Ricketts is at the high point. Jones. Aromaterio has a lane. Nicholas Aromaterio, the shot. Scores! Holy jumping! The Italian stallion puts the puck in the back of the net. Mamma mia, Nicholas Aromaterio! So to keep it in and does. Callum Jones for Potts. At the blue line, kept in by the skate of Thomas Maya. Maya. Down low on the half course, he swings out in the slot for Potts. Kyle Potts has it, hands on, now he shoots, scores! Holy jumping! How do you do? Kyle Potts puts the puck in the back of the net. Braves block that shot, and coming the other way is Alton McDermott. He's on the breakaway, scores! Holy jumping! His grandfather, Paul Henderson, must be ecstatic about that one because Alton McDermott just scored his first career Buckland Cup final playoff goal. Has been pulled. The Dukes are in the Oakville zone. Zone salvage. Swung that around. The Blades are trying to tie this puck up. It goes into the corner. The Blades have a chance to get this out. Lions will tie it up. 10 seconds. Gilmore has it at the point. It's in. Tips. Just wide. 7 seconds. It's back in the corner. Ewing's back in. 3, 2, 1. The Oakville Blades. Holy jumping. Blades win. Blades win. Blades win. The Oakville Blades are Buckland Cup champions.
You're watching and listening to Mamma Mia. This is Fire Talk with Nicholas Fiore.
Welcome back, everybody, to Mamma Mia. This is Fire Talk. I'm your host, Nicholas Fiore, and today, on episode number 56 of the show, we have our 10th NHL Alumni player, and this one's a big one, Rick Vaive, former NHL player for the Vancouver Canucks, Toronto Maple Leafs, Chicago Blackhawks, and Buffalo Sabres. Rick, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. It's I do a lot of these, and it's a lot easier than going somewhere and doing an interview somewhere. So it's a lot more fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what I say? Believe it or not, there's more of a connection through Zoom than there is in person sometimes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's an amazing thing. I never thought I would see this in my day, but here we are.
Exactly. Here we are, for sure, especially since COVID-19 hit. Zoom has been a very, very big deal. But like I said, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I'm very humbled to have you on the show. Let's get things going right away. In Ottawa man, but grew up in PEI, and then playing for Toronto. So you've been all over Canada. Drafted 5th overall, 1979 by the Vancouver Canucks. And I guess, you know, one of the major things you're most known for is the first 50 goal scorer in Toronto Maple Leafs franchise history. I think you hear that probably a lot now, but how crazy still is it to hear that all these years later and be engraved in franchise history with that certain stat?
Well, I mean, it's amazing, really, when you think about it. And actually, it's 40 years ago today that happened. So, you know, to think that it's held up for 40 years and then it had never been done for about 65 years before 1982 is amazing. You know, because like I said, I got to about 45 and then the press were saying, you know, hey, what would it be like to become the first Maple Leaf to score 50 goals? And I went, what? Like, with all the great players that played for the Maple Leafs, I surely thought somebody had done it. But lo and behold, no one had. And then, you know, like I said, 40 years ago today on March 24th, I did it. And it was, had some family in town, my sister, my brother, and it was great. It was a real big accomplishment that I'm very, very proud of.
And it's one of those things where, you know, it is a big deal. Not just alongside that, 3-time All-Star, retired in the 1993 from the NHL with 788 points. It's always important, you know, to have good seasons and try to contribute throughout the season. And you had 3 consecutively, which landed you to be an All-Star. How cool was that? not once, not twice, but 3 times to be an NHL All-Star.
It was pretty cool. I mean, it was much different than it is today, where our All-Star games were like on a Tuesday night.
Okay.
And so, you could be playing on the road on Saturday or Sunday and then fly into wherever the All-Star game is Monday for the dinner Monday night. You have your pregame skate team picture Tuesday morning, and then you play the game, and you might have to play on Wednesday for your NHL team. So it was a lot different then than it is now, but it was enjoyable. Just to go to a place and be around all the best players in the league was amazing. And, I was a young kid and relatively young, and I was amazed at some of the guys that I got to play with and play against and, talk to in the dressing room and that sort of thing. It was an amazing thing for me.
You obviously started your career with the Vancouver Canucks, 47 games. Back in the 1979-1980 season, and then traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs, where you played most of your NHL career with 534 games. Obviously, being a Canadian boy from Ottawa, it wasn't your first Canadian team. It was your second, Canucks, then the Leafs. Did you feel, though, most home with the Toronto Maple Leafs and most effective just in your overall aspect in your NHL career?
Yeah, I mean, it took a little while, obviously, but coming in there where there was a lot of turmoil going on at the time too, between Harold Ballard and Daryl Sittler. Well, not Harold, actually, it was more Punch Imlach. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So it was very difficult at the beginning, but then, that they moved Punch out, and then it kind of settled down a little bit. Daryl was moved to Philadelphia, which, wasn't good for the team because he was one of our best players, if not our best player. I guess the biggest part, I felt very comfortable in Toronto. I loved it. I think it's a place, if you don't have thick skin, you can't play in Toronto. I really believe that. I mean, because, you're scrutinized day in and day out. And of course, back then we weren't winning a whole lot. So that made it a little bit more difficult. But again, I always look at it as, we had Harold Ballard running the show. He didn't want to pay the money to have a good general manager. He didn't want to pay the money to have a good coach. And so unfortunately, the players, we were the ones that suffered because of that.
And, that's the unfortunate thing. You see it in sports now, the politics side of the game, right? In any sport. And it's unfortunate that had to be the case. But we're going to switch gears a little bit and go to your most favorite moment. Now, it could be your first goal, but your favorite moment in your NHL career.
Oh, wow.
Putting you on the spot.
That's pretty, it's pretty tough to single one moment out because there was a lot of great things that happened in my career. And, and it's like, I've answered this question a million times, and I'll tell you, to be honest with you, the fact that I got to play in the best hockey league in the world for 13 years was a highlight. I mean, how many people growing up and then get to the NHL and get to play 13 years? Not very many. And I was very fortunate that I had the drive and I had the ability to do that. So, I would say that was probably the biggest thing, was that I got to play with the best players in the best league in the world for 13 years. That was probably the highlight of my career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe another highlight, if I can say, was you being captain from 82 to 86 with the Toronto Maple Leafs, a big leadership role. As you can see behind me, the C on the chest there, right? What did that mean for you, if any, to be not just a leader of an NHL team, but to be the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, I mean, it was obviously a big honor. There's no question. But it was kind of strange how it happened. Most of the time they'll call someone they'll call you into the GM's office or whatever and say, we'd like you to be the captain and whatever. I don't even know exactly how they do it, but Harold Ballard just came up to me one day and said, "You're our captain." Really? Okay. I guess I'm your captain. So, but I mean, yes, it was a proud moment. There's no question. I mean, growing up watching the Maple Leafs play and the Canadians, and your dream of playing in the NHL, and then all of a sudden you go to one of those original 6 teams, and then you're named captain. It was like, wow, like this is amazing.
Yeah, and it's obviously something that it's a big deal, especially in this lovely market we call the Toronto Maple Leaf market, right? So no, that's it's definitely a huge deal. After being captain, of course, you've also had opportunities to play with your country, with Canada at the under-20 World Juniors, and then a couple of World Championships as well, winning a bronze at the World Juniors, a bronze at the Worlds, and a silver at the Worlds also. How amazing was it to represent your country, the country of Canada, and also come away with the medals in the process?
Well, it was amazing to represent your country first and foremost. To put that sweater on with the Maple Leaf and you're playing for your entire country was an unbelievable feeling. The first one was amazing because it was like I was, what was I, 18 years old, I believe, I think at the time when I played for the World Juniors, and we had a little scrawny guy, 99, that played with us that year too. He wasn't too shabby either, but but it was disappointing. But it was a great experience because, first of all, it was in Montreal for the most part. That's where we played most of our games. But we dressed in the Montreal Canadiens weight room. They took all the weights out and they put it in lockers. So we got to walk around their dressing room every day and then watch them practice and everything else. So I mean, it was an amazing,
wow,
couple of weeks that 2 or 3 weeks that we were there and got to experience that with along with playing in the World Juniors as well. So I mean, it was incredible, and winning 3 medals was amazing. It was I think the best part was going overseas twice when we didn't make the playoffs and winning medals. And you don't expect that. You expect to go over there, and there's some good teams over there, but we were able to win a silver and a bronze, which was pretty cool. And the funny thing was, it was the first bronze in Finland. It was funny because you played your 7 round robin games, and then the points would carry over to the medal round.
Okay.
And so of course Russia's 7-0, so they're going to win the gold. That no one's going to beat them, and no one had beaten them. So anyway, we get into the medal round, and the final game of the medal round was Russia versus Czechs, and they tied 0-0. I mean, like, come on, like the Russians were dumping it in and then changing and not, which they never did before. And so that was a bit of an angry moment because I think if they had won the game, we get silver, the Czechs get bronze, but that didn't happen. So the good part was a few years later in Czechoslovakia, we beat the Russians in the final gold medal game to get the silver and push them down to the bronze. So it was kind of payback time for those guys.
The Canada-Russia, the Canada-Soviet Union rivalry, man. The flame is high, pun intended, with the show. Yeah. The flame is high, the fire is high with those two countries, ain't it?
It was very, very high. And a funny thing was going to Prague in, I believe it was 85. I mean, I don't think, a lot of people probably wouldn't even understand, but it was still a communist country. You're walking out of your hotel and there's army people on the corners with like machine guns and stuff. And you're going like, what the heck's going on here? I mean, we knew that, but we didn't expect, to see those types of things going on. And so that was kind of an eye opener for all of us, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, you see it now actually with the Canadian men's national soccer team going to Honduras and Costa Rica and all that. And they look towards the left and the right, and the army guy with the rifles just in their arms. We're not used to that, even though we're told to expect it.
Yeah.
We're still not used to it here in Canada, right? So it was definitely something I can only imagine back then too. Listen, Rick,
It was pretty. It was a little scary.
Yeah, I would be scared. I'll tell you that right now. I got no shame in saying that. I'd be frightened.
Yeah, it was.
Growing up in Prince Edward Island, little different from the GTA area, of course, but they honored you, and they honored you in a big way, inducted into the PEI Sports Hall of Fame back in May of 2000. All these maybe smaller honors, but from where you're from could mean a whole lot to certain people. I know it would mean a lot to me. How honored were you to be inducted in the PEI Sports Hall of Fame?
Well, that was a pretty cool moment. Growing up, you don't think of all these things that could happen or might happen. You don't even think about any of that kind of stuff. And the funny thing is, a lot of the guys that I played against from PEI are also in the PEI Hall of Fame, including my brother-in-law, Bob Stewart, who played for California, Cleveland, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, my wife's brother. And it was a big honor. It was a pretty cool moment to be recognized by the province that you grew up in as a kid and played hockey in. That was, I got to say, that was probably, it's up there with one of the coolest moments of my career.
Absolutely. You retired from the NHL, as mentioned, in 1993. So at the beginning of retirement life, how did that treat you? Were you at the golf course a lot, or were you just chilling? You were staying back?
Well, no, actually, I got a coaching job right away in the ECHL in South Carolina. It was a new franchise going in there, and Frank Milne, who used to be an agent, and he used to coach the St. Catharines Blackhawks. He was one of the guys that started it, and I interviewed with him, and they gave me the job. So I was like right out of the game playing and moving to Charleston, South Carolina, and becoming a coach, and had no idea really at the beginning what the heck I was doing. I don't think, but I took everything that I saw and heard throughout my career from all the coaches I had, and I took the best parts and threw away the worst parts. And fortunately for me, I had 5 very successful years in South Carolina. We won a championship. I think my 5 years, I think my winning percentage was over 600, and in those 5 years, including the first year, which typically doesn't go very well when you're a first-year team in the league. But we ended up over 500, lost in the first round to my coach way back, John Brophy, in Norfolk. And the funny thing about Brophy, he coached me in Birmingham in the WHA when I was 19, and then in Toronto. We coached against each other for about 5 years, or those 5 years in Charleston. He was in Norfolk. And I remember one night we almost got in a fight, and it was it was hilarious because we were the road team. We were playing in his building, and I put a guy, Dan Fornell, who was a very tough individual, but he was a regular on my third line. He was a good player too. So he put out his tough guy, and my tough guy beat the hell out of his guy. And he started screaming at me and wanted to come around and fight me. And I said, bro, like, please just stay over there. Like, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to have a fight. And he kept saying, well, I said, you got last change. You didn't have to put him on.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was kind of hilarious. And then after the game, I saw him and he apologized, and everything was good after that.
Were you gonna put your best Pat Burns impression on?
No, I had no intentions of fighting Brof, and it was just one of those things that happened, and it wasn't going to happen in my mind anyway. But like I said, we met after the game and talked it out, and everything was fine. I love John. He was my first coach in pro hockey, and I know a lot of guys maybe didn't get along with him, but Brof was a different guy. He was very, very tough to play for, but all he wanted was 100% of your game. I know a lot of players that played for him thought that
Mhm.
that he wanted them to play tough and fight. Well, that wasn't the case. He wanted 100%. And if you weren't willing to give 100% of whatever type of game you played, then you weren't in his good books. And I guess I was lucky that I was one of those guys that played that way and gave 100% every time I was on the ice. So Brof and I got along very, very well.
You know what? It's one of those things, heat of the moment, right? Even though you know each other or not, it's the game, it's the sport, right? You get involved, and sometimes it's too much involvement. But hey, you see it in today's game still, right? It's the heat of the moment and what happens in a game that can fire you up, right? It's as simple as that and take you to a next level.
Well, and the game was quite a bit different then than it is now, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, the evolution of the game from, for instance, say 1982 to 2022, 40 years, there's a big, big difference. I mean, first of all, I love the fact the players have power now, and I'm a big fan of that. I really love the fact that the players have power. It's funny because when I used to be on the board of the Player Association, and we would be negotiating a new CBA, and it wasn't until Al Eagleson was gone and the new guys taking over, and there was lockouts and everything else, and they would be doing CBAs, and I'd see the head of the union walking in with 6 or 8 players, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of weird because I don't remember doing that when Al was in charge. Well, no, because he went in on his own because he was like this with the owners. And that's why we never got the deals that we wanted. And now the players have the power and they're getting the deals that they want. And I think that's great for the game.
Yeah, I think another big change, and I was gonna ask you that. What do you think the change was from when you were playing till now? It has to be how fast it is and the pace of the game, correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, because of all the rule changes too, don't forget. I mean, the game has, I mean, first of all, the players are amazing today. They have skill sets like, I mean, that are out of this world. And I mean, they have skill coaches, they have strength and conditioning coaches, they have skating coaches. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's an 11-month a year job now. I mean, they don't take a whole lot of time off. But the rule changes have helped speed up the game and help the players use their talent and to help them get better. And I mean, you can't hook a guy all the way down the ice like you could in '82. Can't cross-check a guy in front of the net except in the playoffs, maybe. But yeah, there's been a lot of changes, but still, the players are incredibly talented today. Like some of the things I see the players do, I'm not sure there's a lot of guys that could do that back in '82 or '85. To be honest with you, I really don't think there was that many that could do that. Probably, 1 or 2 guys on every team, and that would be about it.
Absolutely. If you're just tuning in now, everyone, we are with former NHLer, Toronto Maple Leaf legend Rick Vaive, as this episode is sponsored by The Bottom Line Restaurant and Bar, downtown Toronto on 22 Front Street, the official restaurant and bar of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Rick, as we continue on here and we roll on episode 56 of Mamma Mia, This is Fire Talk, you went into coaching, as you said, right after with the Stingrays, South Carolina, from 93 to 98. And then you also head coached the team that you played for in the Dundas Real McCoys in the ACH. Well, that's what it's called now. It was called Major League Hockey back in the day, all these changes. And then what was shocking to me, but a good shocking, you coached the Oakville Rangers U16 AAA team back in 2012 and 2013. Obviously, myself, play-by-play broadcaster with the Oakville Blades in the Junior A OJHL right now, coaching Matt Luff as alongside Kyle Capobianco, Luff with Nashville right now, and Kyle with the Arizona Coyotes, the 2 NHLers currently that you coached. How much did you like coaching in general, and whatever you want to touch upon on which experience was great, coaching with your former team, coaching the youth in Oakville?
I love coaching. I really did. And I'll be honest with you, I was pretty darn good at it. I don't mind saying that because, my communication skills were extremely high.
Yes.
Like I knew how to get the best out of most players. You know, I went to St. John, New Brunswick too in the American League after Charleston for 2 years, which was Calgary's farm team.
Yeah.
Which was kind of different because you don't control everything in the American League. You're told that you got to play certain players and that are prospects and that sort of thing. Your job is to get them prepared for the National Hockey League. But there was a few times where, like Marty St. Louis played for me. Now, Calgary didn't believe that he could play in the NHL. I don't know why, but when we had meetings out in Calgary after the second year that I was there, and Al Coates and Nick Polano had gotten fired, so they were rating the players in the system, and I saw Marty's name right at the bottom of the list, and I thought, like, why is this? And Todd Button, Craig's brother, who was a scout for the Flames, argued with me that he can't play in the NHL. So we got into that, and you know, but I knew he could play. I said he just needs to play with the right people, and I said he'll be a 30-goal, 30-assist guy, no problem. I didn't foresee him going on and winning scoring championships and MVPs and eventually Hall of Fame. But you know, it was strange because I spent every day with him and the rest of those guys in St. John. They didn't.
Yeah. So
it was kind of disappointing that in the 2 years I was there, either Brian Sutter, who was a coach, or Al Coates, or somebody would call, say, we need a right winger, we need a defenseman, whatever it might be. And I would say, okay, well, I think this guy's the right guy right now. And I'd walk in the next day and they're packing someone else's bag. And it was kind of disappointing that they didn't listen to me because I was the one that was with these guys every single day.
Yeah.
And so that was a pretty tough time there. I mean, I loved it, but at the same time, it was a little difficult. Of course, then I went on to coach the Ice Dogs in Mississauga, which was a total disaster. And I never got another coaching job after that in professional hockey. I sent out probably 20 to 30 resumes every year in all the different professional leagues, the OHL, you name it, and never got another interview. So I ended up coaching the Young Nats in the GTHL for a year, and then Oakville for part of that year, and then they went on to win the OHL Cup that year. But those kids were amazing. They were really easy to coach. You mentioned a couple of them. They were on that team, and that was a lot of fun. They were great kids, and they were very, very easy to coach.
Well, I think that one of your goalies was McGlynn. He was also a goalie with the Oakville Blades Junior A hockey back then too. And you had some pretty good talent on that team. I just had to bring up the Oakville Rangers, and shout out to the young Oakville Rangers. I see them at the rink at the Oakville Blades games every single game. So that's a pretty cool thing in my eyes, just that minor little connection I had there. Just wanted to see how that came to fruition. So that was pretty cool. Obviously, after coaching, you did some TV. Obviously, you were with Leafs TV, talking Leafs. How did you like that side of it? You played, you coached at quite a bit of every level, pro, then with the U16s, and then you're behind the camera, behind the mic on TV.
Yeah, it actually was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. Brian Duff was the guy who was kind of like the host, and he was fantastic. He was a very professional in the way he did his job, and of course now he's with the Buffalo Sabres in the same capacity. But I love breaking down the game, after the game, and talking about the things before the game that the team needs to do, or doesn't, whatever the case might be. I love breaking things down and showing things on camera. Of course, it was a lot different back then. It wasn't quite the same as it is now.
Yeah.
But it's funny because Leafs TV was probably about a mile down the road on Lakeshore from the building, from the Scotiabank Arena. And so we had to sit in the press box, and if we wanted a clip, we had to pick up the phone and call down there and give them the actual time on, not the time clock in the game, but the actual time, which it was a clock at each end.
Yeah.
Like say it was like 9:11 or whatever the time was. And sometimes they'd get the wrong clip. So you're talking about what's coming up and what you're going to show. And then all of a sudden you look and you go, oh, that's not the one I wanted. So you kind of had to work through that. And that was a very difficult thing to do sometimes. But for the most part, they got the right clip. And but the odd time you didn't. And you had to kind of fake your way through it, I guess. And so that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. It was a lot of work. It was no question. It was a lot of work because you had to do a lot of prep work the day of the game and the night before to get ready for the pregame show, and then you had to watch the game very closely and pull out the clips you wanted to show for the postgame show. And but I enjoyed it. I really did.
Absolutely, and obviously through life, there's ups and downs and struggles and triumphs. I want to talk about your book a little bit, Catch 22, My Battles in Hockey and in Life. I had Caleb Dahlgren, former Humboldt Bronco, on the show a few months ago, and I talked about his book, Crossroads, and what he went through. And I had Dwayne De Rosario, Canadian legend, on the pitch, talk about his book, Dear Old My Life. And it seems like a lot of the guys or girls in your line have these books because they have so much past experience, good or bad, happy or sad, and they want to put it to paper, or they want to share it. How important was that book? Which, by the way, I checked, you can get on Amazon, and you can get that Catch 22 there, which I'm going to get my copy very shortly. How did that come to fruition, and why did you want to express that in the book?
Well, you know what? It's funny because a lot of people had mentioned to me over the years, like, why don't you write a book? Like, and I'm thinking, why do I want to write a book? I mean, I always never really thought about it. And then finally, I just, started thinking about it because, and I knew Scotty Morrison extremely well, and I knew he was an excellent writer, and that I could do it with him. So finally, I decided to do it. And the main reason I decided to do it was because over the many years since I stopped playing and that sort of thing, I'd hear things like, oh man, you must have had a great life, and everything must have been so great in your life growing up and everything because you played in the NHL and yada yada. And you hear that a lot about you do. What people's perception is of professional athletes at the highest level. So I just wanted people to realize that not everybody's life is perfect, and there's ups and downs from the time you're born until the time you get to where you get to. And I just wanted people to understand that, there's trials and tribulations that everybody goes through it.
Yeah.
Even the people that make it to the highest level of sports in whatever sport they choose, there's always obstacles. And yeah. I just wanted to share that story with everybody and let them know that, hey, this is not always perfect, but when you persevere and you work through it, you can make it.
Absolutely. You can get Catch 22, My Battles in Hockey and Life, Rick Vaive's book, on a lot of websites, but check out Amazon. It's on there as well. Listen, Rick, we're about to come to a conclusion here. I just want to touch upon a couple of things just personally for yourself. Ultimate Leafs Fan podcast with Mike Wilson. That's pretty damn cool. I've checked a few episodes out. I want to talk about that and just a segue after into, the Squid 22 Limited, your nickname Squid, and all of that, and what's going on in your life right now, if you don't mind, of course.
Well, I mean, Mike and I do that podcast. We do a live show every Wednesday evening on Instagram, or not Instagram, Facebook rather.
Yes.
And then the podcast we do on a weekly basis is a lot of fun. Get caught up with guys that I played with, guys that I knew that I didn't play with, and that sort of thing. And we get to ask them the questions for a change, and it's kind of good that we get to ask them questions and, get their answers. And we just had Dale Talon on, and actually tomorrow, number 2 of that episode is going to be coming out. It's unbelievable. Like Dale, he was doing the radio when I played in Chicago, so I got to know him real well. And then he went on to do unbelievable things as general manager in the National Hockey League. And I don't think he's done yet. I think he's looking to get back into the game, and I'm pretty sure that he will at some point. But it is a lot of fun doing what I do, and and the nickname is a nickname. And guess who gave me that nickname? John Brophy. We were practicing in Birmingham, and we were doing a power play at one end, and all of us were at the other end screwing around, doing different things. And it was our unit's turn to go down and do the power play. So Brophy screaming at the top of his lungs at the blue line, "Squid, squid!" And Craig Hartsburg was there, and he said, "Who are you calling?" He said, "Vaive." And he said, "Oh, you mean Spud?" Being from PEI and everything.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Squid, Spud, I don't give an F what you call him." He said, "Just get him down here." So anyway, it was funny because I go to Vancouver and nobody called me Squid. It was RV or Rick or whatever. And I get traded to Toronto. We're playing Minnesota. And I'm at the red line in the warm-up. Craig comes over. And Dave Burrows is standing beside me. And he says, "Hey, Squid, how you doing?" And Dave Burrows goes, "Squid?" And then that was it. It's just stuck. And I think everybody calls me Squid now. It's unbelievable how nicknames, for the most part, they come out of something like that. Something funny that happened or something. And everybody calls me that now. So it's kind of stuck.
Well, you know what? That's funny because I know, I'm a young buck trying to come up in the broadcasting world. And 7 years ago, I'll give a shout out to Matthew Redican, who's the Brampton Bombers vice president in the GOJHL and Junior B hockey. And I was just calling games and putting some analogies together for goals. And he just said, "That's fire, fire, fire." So then I came to the Oakville Blades 5 years ago now, winning a championship with them in 2019, going to the Nationals in Brooks, Alberta. And all the players just like Nicholas, Nick, Nikki went out the door. My name was Fire. Like emails started, "Hey, Fire." Like they would text us, "Hey, Fire." So that's why I named my podcast, being an Italian background, Mamma Mia, This Is Fire Talk. Because the nickname like that, I mean, you see all these nicknames that just stick, and it's so cool. It's so cool that it does stick. And like you said, they don't even call you by your name anymore. It's "You're Squid, You're Fire," and that's it.
Yeah. So
it's pretty cool.
It's amazing. It's like, hardly anybody that knows me calls me by my name. It's amazing. Like it's funny how things stick sometimes, and they don't go away.
Well, I'll probably still call you Rick, if that's okay. No.
Yeah.
We're not that close yet. We're not that, no. Listen, I just wanted to say, my dad born in 1967. Last time the Leafs won the Stanley Cup in that summer, and he was born in September. And I told him I was coming on. I only told my family. So when this is released, everyone, now I had Rick Vaive on the show, because I only told my sister, my mom, my dad that you were coming on. My dad's watched you when he was growing up alongside Tiger Williams and Billy Darlego. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming on, Rick. Very kind, very humble, giving a guy like myself a chance who is a semi-pro broadcaster and it's right now, but I want to make it to the NHL and follow in my idol Joe Bowen's footsteps, who I'm going to have on the show and talk to him for school when I was in school at Humber College. But as I continue to ramble, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Nick. And you know what? I mean, hey, all you got to do is persevere, work hard at it, hone your craft, so to speak, and who knows what can happen. I mean, I look at Everett Fitzhugh, who is, my son plays in Cincinnati in the ECHL. He was a play-by-play guy for them last year. Or 2 years ago. They didn't play last year. And now he's in Seattle in the National Hockey League. And it's like, so it can happen. So you just have to hang in there and keep going after it.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I got the passion. I got the love. And I have my inflatable Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup. It's on my Leaf wall over there. I was going to bring it here, but I didn't want to jinx anything for this season because that lovely first round, we got to pass it first. But I think we can do it. I think we can do it this year.
Yeah,
I know we can say that every year.
It's funny you mention that because I really would like to see the NHL tweak the playoff format.
They have to go back to first to 8, right, Rick? First to 8, 2-7.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Well, either that or the only other thing they could do is the 2 divisional winners are seeded 1-2.
Yes.
And then it's the next 6 best teams. Because if you look at the Leafs division, you got 4 of the best teams in the league in that division. So 3 of them are out after 2 rounds.
You have a top team going out right away. You saw it. Like you have Florida, Tampa, Toronto, and then you have Boston and Washington all right there. And one of those teams, 2 of those teams, maybe 3, if a wild card upsets, are out in the first round. And we've had this playoff format for 7 years now, and we need to go back. The NBA has a little play in now, 7 and 8, which is whatever, fine. But we need to go back to 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. Back in the day, 2 conferences, Atlantic, and just get it done, right?
I agree 100%. And I don't mind a couple of teams or a few extra teams doing a play-in scenario because then you keep your fan base interested longer.
Sure.
Because you are, you're going after that play-in position to get into the playoffs. So your fan base is more into the games when they get there and everything because there's still something to play for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think the Buds are going to pass the first round this year, but we pray in the house so that we're in. The fingers are crossed. Listen, Rick, once again, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Everybody, this was Mamma Mia. This is Fire Talk. Episode number 56, sponsored by The Bottom Line in downtown Toronto. Visit www.mammamia. This is Fire Talk for all your merchandise, hats, hoodies, long sleeves, t-shirts. And everyone, we're getting more episodes coming, and it's going to be an absolute dandy. Watch on YouTube, listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast on your audio platforms. Everyone, Rick Vaive, former NHLer, Toronto Maple Leafs legend. I'm Nicholas Fiore, host of the show. Take care. Thank you for tuning in, and Mamma Mia. Now Davis takes it and looks to come the other way. Davis is in, trying to drive, and he will look to go across. Good play to Davis, though, to get it right back to him. He goes down low to Israels. Centering, it's there. Score! Stevie! Steven Whittle scores his first OJHL playoff goal for the Oakville Blades. This game is opening up in a big way for both teams. Ricketts centering, what a pass, Israel's breakaway, the move, scores! What a goal for the Alaska Fairbanks commit, the assistant captain, Harrison Israels, with an absolute dandy. Down low to Lyons, Jack Lyons centering, scores! The double jacks combine as that puck popped up like a jack in a box, and it's Jack Ricketts from Jack Lyons. 6-1 on the 40th shot of the game. It's all Oakville. Willard Smith hits it in. A chance here can develop, but the Blades will look to take it. And Ricketts finds Israels. Breakaway, Israels. A chance, backhand. Rebound. Scores! And the Oakville Blades win it here in Toronto. Blades win, Blades win, Blades win!
That was Mamma Mia. This is Fire Talk with Nicholas Fiore. Thank you for watching and listening, and stay tuned for the next episode.